He's the presidential candidate who wants to lower your taxes. And now he wants to shrink the size of government. Mitt Romney? No. Barack Obama, of course.
I'm calling on Congress to reinstate the authority that past presidents have had to streamline and reform the executive branch. And let me be clear, I will only use this authority for reforms that result in more efficiency, better service, and a leaner government.
Yes, the Democrat who wants to preserve the payroll tax cut holiday now wants to shrink the size of government. The president is proposing to merge 6 agencies, including the Small Business and Administration and Office of the U.S. Trade Rep. And just like the president, the agencies are all business. So if the president is the candidate of small government, who's the candidate of European welfare states?
Massachusetts moderate Mitt Romney. He'll say anything to win. Anything. And just like John Kerry,
Laissez les bon temps rouler.
He speaks French, too.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Mitt Romney.
Joining us now is MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter, and in Washington, Dana Milbank, a political columnist for the Washington Post. Good afternoon to both of you, gentlemen.
Bonjour.
Indeed. Ça va?
Comment allez-vous?
The president hit all the campaign buttons in this speech. I was just noting some of the words. An outdated bureaucratic maze, job promotion, stubborn Congress, self-interested lobbyists, all in front of a crowd of small businessmen. I had trouble today, John, imagining that he was speaking from the East Room. I thought he may have been speaking in the east side of Chicago and on the stump.
Yeah, well, it was obviously a shrewd political move to score on the other guy's side of the field. Sometimes they call it inoculation. If you think that you're going to be attacked for not, managing the government in a way that's pro-business, you want to have something to point to, and especially by throwing down the gauntlet on the Congress. That was the clever part of it, because if they don't act, and we know they don't want to do anything that might help Obama, then he can cast them as being obstructing efforts to have the government help business.
Dana, do you agree that this was a very smart political move, particularly in relation to the Congress?
Well, sure. And I think it's a safe bet that nobody really expects much of anything to happen legislative this year. So, excuse me. So pretty much anything that the president comes up with at this point is political by definition. And it is a good one. Because of what's going on in the Republican primaries, they've really left a lot of room in the middle for the president. You've got the front runner now, talking about his love of firing people and sort of in his position of defending venture capital, leaving this wide open field for the president to run on. And now he can be the guy who's trying to sensibly shrink government and, really appeal to the moderate voter here. And that's what this was all about.
What about the analysis that some people would make, John, that this sounds a bit like a venture capitalist going into a business and what Mitt Romney calls creative destruction, where you go in and you reduce certain waste, you do all those kinds of things. I mean, the president's sounding a bit like, dare I say it, someone like Carl Rove.
But they're not going to sell off the Commerce Department.
That's, of course, the big difference.
Saddle the Commerce Department with all this debt and then sell it off for a huge profit for, a few guys.
No, but you get what I mean by re-engineering an administration, an organization.
But this is where Democrats, need to do more. Al Gore did this reinventing government initiative, but then Obama did not do this in his first 3 years because they had so much else on their plate. But you could argue it's very important to send a signal to the American people that they want to modernize government and prepare it for the 21st century. Right now, a lot of government computers don't even work. People at home have better computers than people in the government. You have ridiculous amount of duplication and overlapping authority, even though most of the growth has been at the state level, not at the federal level, contrary to what you hear from the Republicans. The real bulge in government spending and government employment is at the state level. Does this mean that Romney can point to him in a debate and say, you want to lay off people too? Sure, but it also takes an argument away
the figure the president said about maybe 2,000 jobs will be lost.
Right. But it takes an argument away from Romney, too, because Romney's whole reason for running, he's put all his chips on this idea that he can bring, business-like principles,
expertise
to the federal government, and Obama has stolen a march on him on this and made it harder for him to make that argument.
Dana, one question that I have is why has it taken the president 3 years to do this? Given that he walked into government 3 years ago, he must have seen how chaotic, duplicatory so much of it was. Why didn't he try and deal with that earlier on? Why now?
Well, President Obama moves in sort of very deliberate, planned-out ways. So, there was the economic stimulus, then there was health care. A lot of people thought health care it spent too much time and prevented him from doing other useful things. If you look at the size and scope of what he's talking about now, this is not a major policy initiative. Even 2,000 people, that's not very large in the scheme of the overall federal government. It will really save very little overall. I think this is entirely about putting down a political marker. Everybody agrees that the government is bloated and inefficient here. There's no question. It's how you go about doing it. So I think he just wants to put down his marker right now, and it's a very good time to do that while the Republicans are chewing each other up.
Absolutely. And speaking, John, to Dana's point about the Republicans chewing each other up, I mean, some would say they're stabbing each other to death. What's your assessment of the way things are playing out down in South Carolina, particularly with regard to these attacks on Mr. Romney, who we've now heard speaking Spanish and French in commercials, and who's now attacked for being multilingual?
Well, to me, the big story now is everybody thought it was over after New Hampshire.
Right.
He wins his neighboring state. He does as well as expectations. Newt Gingrich is within striking distance of Mitt Romney in South Carolina. If Newt Gingrich, who comes from neighboring Georgia, goes on to win the South Carolina primary, we're going to have a really interesting Florida primary. And so there's this kind of crazy habit of people wanting to pronounce the race over as if they're going to get brownie points for being the first person to say it's over, Romney's inevitable.
Right.
Well, what we've learned from covering prior campaigns is that there are all kinds of things that can come up. Is Romney still a heavy favorite? Yes. But I do think that South Carolina offers Gingrich in particular a chance to get back into this. He just has to decide, does he want to go down ugly? He's not ultimately going to win. It's unlikely that he will ultimately
You mean
win
the nomination?
The nomination. But does he want to go down ugly and pull Romney down with him and do some of Obama's work for him?
Dana, very quickly, can you answer that question? Is Newt going to go down ugly and dirty?
Everything from his past would indicate he is, and he's got $5 million now to do it. So what the heck?
I think the odds are that he will. Jonathan Alter and Dana Milbank, thanks so much, and have a great weekend, both of you.
Thanks, Mark.